The following readings are from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. Each week, we read from both scriptures as prescribed by Yogananda ji and his guru Sri Yukteswar ji, who was guided by Baba ji to compare the two scriptures to show the same underlying truths between them. This week's topic is titled How Democratic is Truth. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We live in an age when people assume that knowledge should be available equally to all. In matters susceptible of judgment by normal common sense, however, everyone knows there are exceptions. Access to the control room for intercontinental missiles is limited by universal consent to a very few. Access to the controls of a passenger airliner is limited to those with the necessary knowledge for operating them, and also to those with the proper authorization. If people don't see the disadvantages of making more subtle knowledge universally available, it is only because they are ignorant of the risks involved. In the case of subtle knowledge, the main disadvantage in making it universally available is the harm it might do to one who isn't ready for it and who might even mock it. True, by mocking truth, he might undermine the faith of a few truth seekers. But then, such tests can also be beneficial as a means of strengthening faith. Again, true, the clever doubter's misrepresentation of these truths may dissuade a few seekers from following the spiritual path. But if a seeker really is sincere, he will recognize the truth eventually because it resonates with his own being. No, the greatest problem accrues to the shallow doubter himself. To give him an opportunity to affirm his ignorance might only estrange him even more from the truth, delaying the time when he will turn, as all people must, eventually to the light. Thus, the scriptures advise not secrecy, but discretion in sharing the truth. Jesus Christ says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. And Sri Krishna says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Never speak of these truths to one who is without self control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om. Om. Om.
This reading is from Whispers from Eternity by Paramhansa Yogananda, a book of prayer poems. This is Demand to be kept ever awake and ready. O Father, if thou wakest me, how can I ever sleep again? If sleep should steal upon me, wilt thou awake me? The terrors lurking in the dream jungle of life are now forgotten. My sorrow has by thy grace been changed into tears of joy. All my tiny emotional joys blaze into bliss. My body temple is filled with thy light. Its rays keep the eyes of my wisdom from drooping. I thank thee, Father, for keeping me always awake and ready. This is a very important topic this week and very well explained, of course, in the reading and the commentary. And the explanation is necessary. At least it's something that I didn't understand at all on the spiritual path. This statement that give that not which is holy unto dogs, you sort of think like, gosh, you know. And then, of course, the famous "neither cast ye you pearls before swine." That's a phrase you may have heard before. In fact, there's a famous story of there were two well-known celebrity actresses who had a great enmity, a great disliking for each other. And they both arrived at some large event in Hollywood, and they were both sort of like about to, enter the door. So it was a version of Pehle Up kind of thing about, no, you first. So the younger one said, "Age before beauty." And the older one sailed through the door and said, "Pearls before swine." And so Jesus certainly spoke colorfully, and we've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. And yet he says, "Lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you." And so you sort of can relate to that. Like, yes, I mean, I may have found that I have tried to share helpful truths, things on the spiritual path with people, and they have turned about and rent me. They have cut me. They've said, "Oh, shut up." A friend of mine said, now that I've been meditating, he said, "I'm finding I have more peace, but at home, my family life is very difficult. They're always so unhappy, and I just wish I could help them." I said, "Well, don't try to help them by saying you should meditate." He said, "Oh, I am saying that." I said, "Nobody wants to hear that. Did you want to hear that before you came to the spiritual path? How often do we find it helpful when someone says, you need to do this, you need to do that, go see this doctor, go take this medicine, go take this job? Why you just go, yeah, pakalam, and not soon. And so nobody wants something jammed down their throat. So it's a natural instinct, of course. We find something that's so helpful. You find a wonderful new sweet. Krishna Sweets comes out with a new line. You taste it, you say, "Oh, please enjoy, share." And most people say, "Thank you." And then you find I don't know, some wonderful way to well, the first thing that comes to mind, so you know where my consciousness is save money on the electricity bill. It's, I think, because we had no electricity this morning. So you find different things, that help, that make life easier, and you share, and most people will be happy to at least listen to it politely and maybe even adopt it. But certain things are the Vendam. People have to come to it in their own natural course, in their own, they have the freedom. I remember once this Finding Happiness movie, the way we filmed it was that you sort of had certain topics you're supposed to cover, but then at another time they said, now just walk and talk and say anything that comes up. And so the actress who plays what's her name in the movie, she's named after another actress, Juliet, she said, are people allowed to visit your community? So this was just put to me without any warning. And I said, just sort of thought for a moment. I said, if we found something that has helped us so greatly, why wouldn't we want to share it with others? And the director said, "Cut that, say that." And so said, "Okay, well, I did, but I'll say it again." So then this time they had it, they took the camera and put it just sort of like, yes, if we found something, is this correct? Is it supposed to be touching me? Just kind of, but anyway, after the producer said to me, you are a good actor. He was from Italy. I thought, my gosh, I mean, it's not too tall an order if you're playing yourself. I mean, you think you should be able to act as your own self. I mean, we practice every day doing that. So anyway, but it's just the truth. And Swamiji himself said that when he came onto the spiritual path, his sudden conversion to the spiritual life had the effect similar to that of a grenade hurled into someone's leisurely Sunday breakfast. And he said it didn't help matters at all that in his zeal, newfound zeal, that he tried to convince everyone that this was the most sane course possible, because they were accusing him of being insane. And so all we have to do is also perhaps view somebody's passion, somebody's drive to be even just one directed in their attention as perhaps a little extreme. Often people will prefer a more moderate approach. Why? Because either they're not interested and they don't want to hear about it, or secretly they wonder if they should be doing it, but they're not wanting to yet. As one saint, Saint Augustine, used to pray, "Make me a saint, but not tonight." And that went on for many years, but the first part of the prayer held out eventually. And so no one likes to be challenged or criticized or shown up either. That somehow you can say, no, I'm not trying to put myself above, but you can't help it. You're not, but spiritual values are above, and those people who know that may fight against that. So it's better to try not to convince. If somebody asks, of course, that's different. Even then, be tentative, because the whole point is of the motto of yoga is do what works. And does it work to, hit someone over the head with the Bhagavad Gita? Well, I don't know what your goal is, but it's not anything, no positive outcome. And so does it work to say, I do this and you should too? No. I mean, again, somebody can say, well, I do this other thing and you should do. No, thanks. But again, that desire to help is good. If it's sincere, it's wonderful. We just have to find ways to help that are useful, that actually work. I had a friend who was very much interested in the spiritual path, but in a way that it became very difficult for us to have a conversation. Anything I would say, he would sort of argue with. Anything he would say, to me, just seemed kind of, just daft. I mean, just pretty crazy. And I had to come to the point where I said, listen, I think when we talk, we should not talk about anything spiritual. It's just sort of the opposite of what I would like to do. Here's somebody you could finally say something to and hear something from. And it was difficult. And then for whatever reason, he was younger to me and he needed some help with calculus. And he was finishing up a college course. And so I was helping him with calculus, and it was we had so much fun. We just laughed, and everything was easy again. And we rediscovered something we had in common that we shared. The basis of the friendship was all fine. The philosophy was put to the side, and it was really a gift. Because I wasn't sure before that how far this was going, because my philosophy was important to me. His was important to him. I didn't mind if he didn't agree with me, but it's hard when everything you say, it just sort of, no, actually, it's from the 16th planet of the star. That's just sort of, okay. I think that, again, let's pause this conversation. And so you can find something of interest to discuss with the person, something that interests them and something that you can bear to talk about. A lot of people, it's not even that they want, it's what that they want to be heard. We can say, yeah, I want to be heard. Yes, I know. But let's give that gift to another person. Let them be heard. Many people will feel loved if you just receive what they have to say. They don't, especially if it's a problem, or in the case of a problem, they may not even want a solution or advice. They may just want to share it, to unburden themselves, to feel that, okay, I'm not alone in this. And they may already have the solution, or they're just mustering their courage, or they just want to wait it out and see how it progresses, as opposed to, I've come to you, question, answer. Maybe not answer, just to be. Then you can say, of course, but then who can I share these things with? Because that desire to share is strong in us, and it's natural. And again, I guess before I address that, Krishna says, never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion. And you think, but wouldn't such people need these truths most of all? And it's like the people who are struggling don't give any help to them. I mean, how does that balance against him saying, even the worst of sinners, by steadfast meditation on me, speedily comes to me? So he's certainly allowing for anybody who wants to come to him. But that's the key. Who wants to? Don't speak of these truths to anyone who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me. And you think, is that really like how Krishna is? Like, did you say something? What are you looking at? You're not going to get any of these truths. I mean, obviously, an incarnation of God, I think he's sort of well gotten over what people think of him. In fact, was it Krishna who had those, there were some guards that were so devoted to Krishna that they wanted to merge with him, and so they prayed to be reborn, or they were blessed to be reborn as his enemies, because as his enemies they couldn't stop thinking about him. I know they say that about Ravana and Rama also, that Ravana hated him so much that he found God through hatred. Maybe I wouldn't advise it as a suitable path. Good for Ravana, but the rest of us should take a safer course. But that there was something about that these guards were, they hated Krishna so much that they found God through, because of this focus. So again, he didn't care. And so the point is, as Swamiji explains, the harm it does to the doubter himself. That's the danger. Anyone is worthy of hearing these truths. Anyone is worthy of learning Kriya Yoga. I should say everyone is. That's one thing that's here, that we wait until people are ready. Not everyone is ready to. And what makes somebody ready? Primarily that they want to. And when we try to push something on someone when they don't want it, then they end up, even if they were feeling neutral before, now they have an aversion. Now they have a wall put up. And later on, if someone says, why not Kriya Yoga? Why not Bhagavad Gita? They say, oh, I don't like it. And so we want to be very careful that way. Also, why does it matter if they have an aversion to it? Because in the case, for example, it can be what gets them out of their trouble. And so to turn them against the one solution, God is the one solution. I don't mean just this path, obviously, but that it's sort of giving them a handicap. Here's the exit. I hate exit. I'm being tortured in this prison. I don't want the exit. You do, actually. And so we don't want to prejudice or harm people in that way. On the other hand, also, speaking against God, speaking against truth, God doesn't mind. But it's not good karma. It's not a good thing to do. It's not that you'll be cursed or punished, but again, it's out of harmony with the truth. As we were saying, truth is the light. Truth is the light. So wise men say that guides you out of darkness. So why give someone that opportunity to incur more presence sometimes, unfortunately? Better to find ways in which you can keep them soothed, pacified. So again, Krishna is not saying anybody who's down, kick them harder. It can seem that way. It's not a question of, do they deserve these truths? Of course they do. But if they don't want them, better to wait. And so then we have to say, yes, but what about me then? If I can't talk to this one, that one, who is left? And so you do have to find friends on the spiritual path. That's why we have community. That's why we have this temple. That's why we're all in it. That's why we have to make a bigger temple. And so pursue friendships with other spiritual seekers, people who do want to hear of these things, people who have inspiration to share with you as well. Again, you have to be, as Swamiji used the word, selective. You have to choose, experiment. To be friendly to everyone, maybe you find one person who you talk to on the phone regularly. Don't expect it to be many such people. We are in a realm of life that is not popular. God, yes, especially in India and definitely also in Chennai, there's a lot of love for God in some form. So we're very blessed. And if you're not sure how blessed, just leave for a while and come back. You'll come running back. It's wonderful. And yet, at the same time, we Kriya Yoga, for example, the deep peace that you feel in meditation is not known by many people. Certainly, there are many numbers of people, but statistically, you won't bump into many in your journey throughout the day. And so I don't mean it as a point of saying that anybody is above. Again, no one is above until we're in God, and then you feel sort of humbler than any. Master said, we are all waves on the sea, and the big waves are crashing about, and the saints are the little waves, the small bulges trying to merge back into the surface of the sea. So it's a wonderful image. So think of, just be aware that, again, how dynamic was this to our consciousness before we meditated? Again, some things you can only learn, most things you can only learn through experience. And if someone has had a similar experience, you have a point of connection. But just words, just explanation is not enough. And remember, in sharing also, you could say, well, what if I'm with friends or family and they don't want to hear of these things, but I love them? What I'm talking about is just that they don't love it. True teaching, even Swamiji said, is vibrational. That it's the vibrations that come through. We felt this way with Swamiji all the time, and he commented on it, that someone would say to him, that was a wonderful talk you gave yesterday. And he would say, oh, I'm glad. What did I talk about? And he said it partly was true, because he said after he gives a talk, he wipes the slate clean and even purposely tries to forget it. So in case the same thoughts come next time, for example, they'll be fresh and in the moment, as opposed to, yeah, this worked on Tuesday. Here's my new line. And then on the other hand, he said he was curious to see if whatever he had talked about was something, what of it had the person retained? And he said, very often people will say, gosh, I really don't remember. I liked it. It helped me. And Swamiji said, at first, as a teacher, it can be a little discouraging that, sort of. Yeah. And he said, but he realized that, again, it was the vibration. It's the energy. It's what we become through the interaction then, as opposed to the specific piece of wisdom and all of that. Those are helpful too, of course. But I was thinking how Swamiji would gather us together. He would give this big talk, all of which you can see, all these videos are on YouTube, so you can be at the talk too. And then it was almost as if, yes, at a certain point, you've heard many of these stories, you've learned many of these things in the sense that you can speak them, you can say them. What have we really learned in our core? Okay, maybe not, but just in terms of what we can say. But it didn't matter. And of course, it was lovely to hear it every time, because you might get some nuance, you might get some new insight, but overall, it just felt so good. And again, it feels that way even now. Watching a video of Swamiji or listening to a talk of masters or reading his book, there's just a blessing somehow. And even Master said, when Swamiji, he asked Swamiji, how did you like my book? And Swamiji said, it's wonderful, sir. He said, that's because it has my vibrations in it. Again, it's the vibration that changes. This is one reason why a guru is so important. And we're going to have a discipleship initiation in a moment. That the guru, we talk about how a guru has to be self-realized to give you that gift of self-realization. He has to have it first himself. And also that a guru gives you more than teaching, information, instruction, techniques, all of which are helpful. He gives you the power to find God. Master said that over and over again. It's a quote from the Bible said about Jesus, to those who received him, to them he gave the power to become the sons of God, to become children of God. And he gave them that power. It wasn't that he was the only one with that power, but he was the one for them with that power. And the guru is that way for the disciple. He gives that power. How does he give that power? One way, one answer to that is through vibration. And of course, you understand what I mean by vibrations and sort of energy transference. I can't really explain it. And even to explain it too much would not be to explain it. It's something you feel. And I say that because also when Master was dedicating the lake shrine, and he had the ashes of Gandhiji, which some of which are there, and he was putting them, they were placed in the urn, and then he said, one by one, everyone come and touch the urn and feel the vibrations. And Swamiji overheard afterwards one young child saying to another, I didn't feel any vibrations, sort of like, sort of like, what's he doing in there? So the that energy, that vibration is also, you could say, in a to put it in a different way, it's God's grace. Swamiji said when someone asked him, what is God's grace, or how do we experience God's grace? He said, it's that good feeling you have after meditation, after coming to a satsang, after talking to a friend, more than just, oh, I was sad and you said something and it cheered me up. It's maybe not anything specific, but just a lightness, a lift. He said, that's also God's grace, meaning that's how it can be real to us, as opposed to 25% is my effort. Okay, that's okay. 25% is the guru's effort. Okay, master, please. And 50% is God's grace. Well, good luck with that. I mean, I guess he's giving it. Maybe he's giving it all the time. If he is, that's no good, because I don't feel good all the time. Maybe he's not giving it. Well, that's no good. Sort of, if he wants to, fine. No, he is giving it. Divine Mother is giving it. But you experience that as the good reason, a good feeling for no reason, even just that. Someone said that to Swamiji, that what can I do to be in tune? And there are many things you can do. But Swamiji, in this case, he said, it's also just God's grace when you get in tune. He said that you can be trying to, approach life, but the mind isn't working, the heart is closed, and just your self is just not cooperating. And then he said, you can feel a touch of God's presence and everything just falls into correct place, into alignment. The heart opens, the mind is clear, everything just works from that blessing. And so you attract that blessing by wanting it. You attract it by your sadhana. You attract it by being kind to others and talking to God. Who can you share these truths with if no one else wants to hear them? The source. Talk to God. Talk to Divine Mother. Say, listen, you have to listen to me because, I'm your child after all, and you've dedicated one of your, 1,000 years to me. And so let all the things I wish I could say to them, let me say to you. You can write it also, just in a journal. You can write a letter to Master. You can even write his reply to your letter. Just make it sure that it's something Master would write. Yes, I have thought very little of you, and now I think even less. That's not something Master would write. Okay? Somebody else would write that. So don't have any kind of letters like that unless they are to the extent that they motivate you, that they encourage you. That's how Master always was, Swamiji tells us. We get that too indirectly, but he said he was always that way. He also said Master would always speak to people in such a way that they would remain open to him. Amazing, isn't it? If they weren't open, then he might not bother them. But if they were open, he wouldn't unnecessarily ruffle them, because he wanted to have that openness, because that openness is up to the person. We can either be open or not. Another person can be open or not. That's their freedom. Even God won't interfere. And so be careful and be aware of, I had good intentions, but still, and this happened to me many times, I started the conversation with very good intentions. And after the first hour of my dialogue, which was really a monologue, I saw the person. And then I would say, oh, well, I see you again tomorrow. And they would say something like, maybe. And then it's kind of, somehow the face doesn't match what I was expecting. You just sort of learn the clues that even that, because again, how do we see our blind spots? We can't, not directly. If you can, it's not a blind spot. So the blind spots come, you have to kind of infer. You have to sort of deduce. Sometimes I noticed early on when I had a fever and I was sharing all of the wonderful insights that were coming to me during my fever, I noticed this sort of general expression on people's faces, them sort of looking at each other as if, do you have any weapons on you? And sort of that there was a gradual distance put. And I thought, what is everyone's problem? Oh, Anane, I am the problem. And so then so in these ways we learn. But again, does the outcome match what you wanted? Does it work? If it doesn't work, the solution is not to try harder. Try something else. And again, does it work for you? Again, we try to push something onto someone, they're unsatisfied, and we are unsatisfied because we feel somehow we haven't been received. And then we say, and what would you like to talk about? Anything else. It was sort of, oh, okay. So, I mean, someone insists that you watch television with them. Well, maybe that's a way of sharing time with somebody, especially if it's an older person. Be glad of the time you have. I don't mean 4 hours, that you have to be, but some. And maybe you just meditate during it. Often the person doesn't want to talk. They don't even care if you're watching. They just don't want to be alone. So spend a little time giving in that way. Again, think of giving vibrationally. You can give vibrationally through prayer for the person, whether you're with them or not. You can give vibrationally if you have Kriya by doing Kriya for the person, especially if they don't know Kriya. You can say, I'm going to do some Kriyas for this person. I wish they would do it for themselves. I will do it for them. But again, don't really, I will do, sit up straight. I'm doing Kriya for you. It's not, just say, Divine Mother, I make this offering of this meditation to them. Let these blessings go to them, and don't make it your whole meditation, just a portion, a small portion, because otherwise it can seem a little strange, as if their healing is only up to you. Does Divine Mother not know them? Does Divine Mother not love them? Does Divine Mother not know? Did she not, see them before they were born or you were born, and will follow them after? So we are together for a time, and we should help, we should give. But again, be selective, be appropriate, go through those doors that work and leave the other doors for a while that aren't working. Just give people space. As I said, talk to God, write to Master, talk to people here, find friends, develop that friendship. Don't expect there to be many, because I said to Swamiji, did Master envision that everybody who read Autobiography of a Yogi, I asked him, that they would eventually take Kriya? Because for me, that was it. Autobiography of a Yogi mentions Kriya. 30 seconds of Kriya gives you 1 year of spiritual advancement. Let's see, 30 seconds, 1 year, 30 seconds, 1 year. I'll take the 30 seconds. Wonderful. And Swamiji said, oh no. He said, very few people actually want God. And that's what it comes down to. What does Kriya give you? 30 seconds speeds up the journey, but the journey toward what? God. Again, which is our own self. It's the only reality that there is. It's the only answer, the only solution. Why? Because God says so? No, just because it is. God is joy. Who doesn't want joy? I remember arguing with somebody, a professor who, not my professor, but a professor who I was saying that a mutual friend of ours wanted to become dean of the college because he thought it would make him happy. And the man said, no, it's happy? He doesn't want it to become happy. He wants to have an impact in molding the young minds that pass through the halls of learning. I said, yes, and then what will that do for him? Well, because then he'll be able to influence the whole field of engineering through his efforts. And okay, and then what will that give him? Well, then he can see that his legacy lived. We went on and on and on. And I said, and then what will that give him? And he said, it'll make him happy. I wish I had accepted his answer with more grace than I did. I said, ah, so loud that everybody is gonna, he didn't really like me much after that. Could never quite figure out why. But I had so many people shoved down my throat. These are all the reasons why you are wrong. permanently and forever. And so when someone finally capitulated, then unfortunately the force of my response was, times the 10 other people who I hadn't, but I've been sort of holding it up for them. So anyway, I regret that. But so just again, I remember very few people actually want God, but it's the only solution. If you don't want God as the solution, I wish I could say pick another planet, pick another universe, pick another manifested reality, pick another nothing. There's nothing else. These are complain up there. It's the same thing. God is the answer. If you don't like it, you can take it to him. But you'll be so happy to see him, because again, he's the joy that we're all seeking. So try to see that too in the joys that someone else is seeking, instead of thinking, well, that is just crass materialism that ends in misery. Well, you may not be invited back. Just sort of say, well, behind that joy that they're feeling is the joy of God. Everybody is seeking the joy of God, even if they're not calling it that at first. And so let me honor that search for joy, and let me find that as a point we have in common, even if I think and know more than I can say. Be appropriate when you share with people. Don't think of my need to say, but their need to hear, or their need to not hear. You see? But on the other hand, as I said, you can't just sit around stoppered up all the time. I love God. Sorry, didn't mean it, to let it out. Got to find people you can share that with. And you can always share it with God and Guru. God bless you.